Okay, perfect. Can we all see what I'm looking at? I hope so. Okay. So, analyzing text, different styles, different levels of complexity, recognizing the use of vocabulary, and identifying levels of formality and bias. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Going to make sure that all of you understand exactly how to do that. Okay. So at the level 2, you'll be expected to understand and analyze a text and use the information in it to provide an appropriate response. These sorts of questions mean that you have to use the information to answer another question. It's more than a simple comprehension activity. You need to support your answer with evidence from the document, and to make sure that you address the question, you must make a clear choice. Considering the text in detail, you need to provide a comprehensive explanation supported by examples. Okay. These are the sort of questions you may be asked. Your friend thinks that flexible working is a good idea. Use document 2 to say whether you agree or not. Okay, so it's just about referencing the document, guys, and just understanding what to actually take from the document. We'll get into that. So, how to tackle these questions? You need to support these answers with clear information. Are there any facts or figures in the text to back up your opinion? Remember, these questions are not about what you know, but what you can use from the text as evidence. Guys, never ever answer a question off your own knowledge, basically, when it comes to like this document, right? So if the document is referring to, I don't know, if the document's referring to something that you think you know about just anyway, so for example, World War II, for example, okay, if the document is referring to World War II and you know that, oh, this happened on this date, but it's not mentioned in the document at all, you cannot use your own knowledge to supplement your answer, okay? The reading exam is purely based off the other document. Okay. Okay, let's look at this. So you'll need to recognize levels of formality in text. Look at these 4 sentences and put them in order of in order of formality, from most formal to least formal. Okay, guys. So I'll leave for a minute, and I just want you guys to order them up, okay? Or just shout them out to me. If you can see anything you think is the most formal, the least formal, just shout it out, guys. Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Or...
Hello?
Hi, me. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Good morning. Sorry.
No worries, me. Can I get you to help me with this question then, please?
Okay.
Okay. So, we need to rank these sentences from least formal to most formal, okay?
Yeah.
Which one do you think is the most formal? Yeah, which one do you think is the
Wait,
most formal? No
wait.
worries.
Let me check. Hold on. Just give me a second.
Yeah, no worries, Reed.
I picked the number 4.
Is what? Which one? The
Uh,
most formal or least formal?
uh, the first form. Wait,
Most formal.
most form.
Okay, let's think about this, okay? Because what does, you know me, if you were thinking of someone who is very formal, they speak very formally, do you think they would speak, um, do you think they would speak like that?
Mm,
Read out the sentence, right? Read out the sentences to yourself. So, the restaurant's okay. I wasn't allowed to smoke. Or the modern gastropub is a pleasant and
no, no.
memorable experience with lots to savor and enjoy. Do you know what I mean? So, it is believed that the arrival to our shores of the gastronome Raymond Blanc Sr. in the 1970s transformed British cooking forever. Kids are more of a presence in restaurants these days, and when I went with my lot, they absolutely loved it. So I'll tell you, don't worry, I'll tell you. So, okay, so number 4 is the least formal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's the least formal because okay is kind of not, it's not formal language.
Yeah.
Wasn't is not formal language. You'd say
Yes.
I was not, right?
Yeah.
Restaurants, it would be restaurant is okay.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Mm.
Uh, then I would say second least formal is kids are more of a presence in restaurants these days. And when I went with my lot, that is like you know, it's not formal language to
Not formal.
describe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely loved it. Now the rest of the sentence is fine. That's why it's more formal than this one, but there is still the kind of slang. And also, if you're referring to yourself in the first person, that is also considered more informal,
Mm.
just generally, okay?
Okay.
Um, then we have two pretty tough ones, right? Because then we have the modern gastropub is a pleasant and memorable experience with lots to savor and enjoy.
And enjoy. Yeah.
It is believed that the arrival to our shores of the gastronome Raymond Blanc Sr. in the 1970s transformed British cooking forever. I'm gonna go and say number 2 is the most formal, with number 3 closely behind, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So do you understand kind of generally like I think honestly, do you know what might help? Like what kind of helps me? I think it's like if you try and imagine like a really fancy person, you know, and how they talk, I think you can kind of see, okay, you know, this is how someone would talk. Or, for example, if you were talking to your boss or you were writing an email, right, to
Yeah.
your boss, right, at work, and you had to, you were applying for like a, I don't know, promotion, right? You're going to use very, very good language, right? You're going to be very proper, use all your grammar and everything like that. So I think just think about that and then think about would you say this sentence? Would this sentence fit? Because the restaurant's okay. I wasn't allowed to smoke. It's a short sentence. There's abbreviations which aren't typical informal sentences.
Informality. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we go through it. So yeah, I was right. Yeah. So this is the going from least formal to most formal in this order. But we'll look at that now, as to why that is the case, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, technical vocabulary, right? Gastronome. I'm guessing that means like a, expert in food and cooking. So using the kind of technical vocabulary, uh, the passive voice. So you know how I was saying if you talk with the I did, we did,
We did. Yeah.
it's not as formal, right? So it is believed, instead of saying I believe that the arrival to our shores of the gastronome, it is believed that the arrival to our shores of the gastronome, right? Slight difference, very slight difference, but it's quite obvious once you know what to look for, right? So if you see first person, it's informal generally, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And this is passive voice. This is formal
yes,
or informal?
this is formal, my friend.
Which
So
is formal. Yeah.
yeah.
Formal, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Long, complex sentences, okay? So what makes a sentence complex, right, is is commas essentially. So being able to write a long sentence like this, it's a long sentence, right? I think we could all agree. Like, it is
Yeah.
believed at the arrival of our shores, blah 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 blah. It goes on for a while, right? But they've made it so that it can be one sentence by using three different commas in one sentence, right? To make it flow, to give you the natural
Oh,
pauses. So long, complex sentences um, usually have also a subordinate clause. Now, I'll explain what a subordinate clause is, right? It's basically something that is dependent on the rest of the sentence, right? So it doesn't make any sense unless you have it in the sentence. So if you just say in the 1970s, it doesn't have any relevance, right? It doesn't have any relevance. It doesn't mean anything.
okay.
So but whereas in this sentence, right, it's used to kind of give more information. So I'll give you the dictionary definition of what a subordinate clause is, right? A clause typically introduced by a conjunction that forms part of and is dependent on a main clause. Yeah, absolutely. So dependent on a main clause. This would be the main clause, right? It is believed that the arrival to our shores of the gastronome in the 1970s transformed British cooking forever. But they've added the name in there as well. This is the subordinate clause, guys. I'm telling you something. It's good to know what it is, but you also will never need to really use it for the exam. So don't worry about it too much. So the modern gastropub is a pleasant and memorable experience with lots to savor and enjoy. Yep, gastropub, pleasant, memorable experience. Generally, longer words are more formal. That's how it's viewed in English. It's very typical. More adjectives, more kind of colorful language used to describe can generally be more formal. So here we go, colloquial language, right? So kids, right? Even the word kids. Now I know this is a very common word, but the real formal word that would be used is children, right? That's the kind of correct, not correct, right? Kids,
Those
it's informal.
why children?
So kids, I believe, is not the dictionary it's not the dictionary word, for to describe young children. Because it's children. It's definitely children. I think kids is a kind of colloquial slang that has kind of come about. Um, I just want to Google this quickly and give you guys a good. So I mean, the meaning of a kid is a child.
Okay.
So
Children is
uh,
for all of them. Child, teenage. Yeah.
yeah. So okay. Yeah. So um, children is the dictionary definition. It's the plural of child. Kids are. Sorry, give me 1 second. I just saw this. Because I want to give you guys the right answer on this one, and I don't
Kids
think
are specific age and like
I don't think so. Actually, I don't think so.
yeah, I think so.
I think it
From
is informal.
from
Kids,
1 to 6
Yeah,
years, 8 years, we
informal.
call them kids.
yeah.
But children is just like from one to it's all up to 16 is still
Ah,
children.
yeah. No, you're
Think so?
absolutely right. So
Yeah.
kids may be used more frequently used to describe younger children, whereas sorry, yeah, sorry, they use kids and children in the same sentence, which I find quite confusing. But then they say, whereas children can encompass a broader age range, including teenagers. So
Yeah.
absolutely correct. Um, some find kid to be less personal than child as well. But also, from what I'm understanding, is mainly the formality. Okay, so I think kids will be a word that has come about in the last 100 years in the English language, whereas children will have been around for the past few hundred years, right? So with the English language, generally what's considered formal is basically what people were using a long time ago. That's generally how it's looked at. So let's look at this then. Formal language.
Kids formal or informal?
Okay, so kids is informal.
Whole sentence.
Yes. So kids are more of a presence in restaurants these days, and when I went with my lot, comma, they absolutely loved it. So one comma, it's a long sentence with only one comma, so it's not like super complex, right?
Yeah.
Lots of colloquial language. They, they, I, right? These kind of first person things is generally informal.
Informal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Look,
Yeah.
don't worry. I'm gonna show you literally just a table
yeah.
of like
I
what
get
is
it.
considered, right? So, guys, I take a screenshot. Whatever you have to do, just kind of keep note of this because this is quite helpful. You have access to this, by the way, on your Moodle, so don't worry. But this is a kind of very good page to refer to. Yeah, got it. Hello.
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 Yeah, sorry, have we taken a screenshot, guys? Have we got this down?
So,
No?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's
Mention.
go. Let's go. Okay. So passive and active voice. Okay, this is good. This is what we were kind of covering earlier, right? So active voice. He designed many classic cars in the 60s. Passive voice. Many classic cars were designed in the 60s. Okay. Do we understand this, or do you want me to explain it a bit more? Because I think it's pretty obvious how the sentences change, but let's look at it, okay? So the verb, I think, is kind of important, where it will be placed, right? So you might be looking at the verb now, and it says designed, and then it's also designed here. So it's like, oh, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. So it's the word designed is is the actual past form, the past participle. It's called. You don't need to know that the name, but it's were designed. Something was made, right? Instead of made, right? It doesn't work in that sense, right? You have to use were, was, is being made, stuff like that, right? To describe the object. So let's look. He designed many classic cars in the 60s. So who is designing them? He is. Okay, this is a person, right? Was he designing many classic cars in the 60s? Okay, makes sense. It's active because he designed them in the 60s. Whereas passive voice, the passive voice basically means there's no person involved in this, right? Like you're not like talking about someone doing something, someone having done something. It's the act of the thing being done, just generally. There's no personal aspect to it, right? Many classic cars were designed in the 60s.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Are we seeing the difference there, right? So it's were designed. There's no he, there's no person, right? There's no person. It's just the object, and they were designed in the 60s. Okay, so in the passive form, the object moves to the start of the sentence because it is often more important than the subject. It is often seen in formal writing, particularly where a process is involved. For example, the engine is started, then coal is added. There's no he there.
Why use where, don't use was?
Many cars was designed.
Cars, for written for cars.
Say that again, sorry. Abdul.
Why use where? Don't use
Okay.
was.
So Was you can use, but okay, so they mean different things, okay? So if you were using was, you would have to use a more active verb, okay? So it would be was doing, was having, was being, right? Um you can't use was here because many classic cars was doesn't work. It just does not work in this case. So was something was wrong, right? Is let me I want to explain this to you, right?
Okay.
Okay. If you say was, it would imply that you were talking about just one classic car, or that you are mistakenly treating the plural subject cars as singular.
Okay.
So if you're referring to multiple classic cars, were is the way to go. If you want to use was, you would need to say something like many classic cars was designed, which is grammatically incorrect.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So um
I can say many class car was designed.
not many, because many means the
Yes,
plural,
yes.
right?
One
So
classic.
a classic car was
Yeah,
designed in
a
the
classic
60s
car.
for
Yeah, yeah.
this classic car. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
Yeah.
were and was, there's singular and a plural difference, okay? Okie dokie. Let's look. Okay, so direct commands. Okay. Informal languages uses imperatives or a direct command. Abdullah, I think you were talking about this yesterday, weren't you? So it's buy now, pay
Yeah.
later, right?
Yeah.
Change your lifestyle with a low carb diet. Go to Spain and see. There are more immediate, emotional, and personal. Okay, they're just orders, guys. They're telling you to do something. Okay, it's telling you to go and do this thing. Formal language avoids imperatives. For examples, please refer to diagram B. If you'd prefer, you could sell your car through Auto Supermarket. Visiting Turkey is a delight. Now, a bit different, right? But if you compare them to their alternatives on the informal imperative side, right? Visiting Turkey is a delight. Go to Spain and see. Very different. Very different. Getting told to go to Spain, whereas being told that Turkey is delightful is quite different. These are less emotive and a little distant. Little distant. So it's basically trying to encourage you to do it, but not by telling you to do it, just by telling you it's good, or it's, you might want to do this, or, oh, I think this would be a good idea. You should check this out, It's a suggestion, which is taken more is also more often well received from people, right? I'm sure if you'll notice, if you tell someone to do something, that you might get some resistance, some kind of, disagreement. Whereas if you try and kind of suggest something to someone, they're more likely to take it on in a better light, basically. Because they're not being told what to do. People don't like being told what to do. I'm sure you know this. But just thinking about that in terms of formal and informal. So formal, no imperatives or avoids imperatives. Informal uses imperatives. Okay. Subordinate clauses. Subordinate clause is one that adds information to a main clause. They cannot exist on their own. So the Pope, who turned 64 on Wednesday, left for Brazil last night. So I'm just going to use this sentence as the example, guys. So this is the subordinate clause, okay? Who turned 64 on Wednesday, right? If you got rid of this clause, the sentence would still work. So the Pope left for Brazil last night. That still works grammatically, okay? But you can't say who turned 64 on Wednesday by itself. That doesn't work, does it? That doesn't work because who is who? You know, we don't know this. We don't know who if we just remove the rest of the sentence. So subordinate clauses are dependent on the rest of the sentence to function. Okay. After a long bath, Michelle decided to go to bed for the night. Okay. Sensing a revolution, the president left in the middle of the night. So sensing a revolution is the subordinate clause here. Okay. Because the president left in the middle of the night. He could have left for any reason, right? I don't know. But because they tell us sensing a revolution, we're like, okay, now I know why he left in the middle of the night. Okay, it's explaining the other clause. Okay. Okay, now so we're gonna look at bias. Okay. Now, Abdullah, if you could just like roughly tell me what you think bias is.
Bias means show some side of for
What does it mean
idea.
to you? What does it mean to you? Like, okay, yeah, so they show one side of an idea. Are they showing the other side as well or no?
No, just one side.
Just one side, right? So,
One
okay,
side
that's
for
someone very
idea.
biased, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely right, Abdullah. So,
Yeah.
bias, right, is the kind of preference of one side in an argument or a debate, right? So when there are two options or more, right, and someone is biased towards something, right? So I'll give you an example, okay? So personally, I'm a Manchester United fan. Okay, that's a football team. I am biased and saying that Manchester United is the best team in the world. Okay, because they're my favorite team. So I'm going to, I'm going to say they're the best, but they are not the best. I know they are not the best, but I will still say that because I have, kind of underlying feelings or emotions towards United, right? And it's the same in the text, right? So you can tell that, for example, if Abdullah, you're reading, um, not reading anything, you're walking on the street, yeah, and someone's
Yeah.
trying to sell you something. Someone's on the street vendor. They're trying to sell you this product, right? And they're saying it's so good, it's so perfect, it's so cheap,
Yes.
it's unbelievable, right? Everyone needs to have one, right?
Yeah.
They're selling the product, right?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
they are directly gaining. They have something to gain
Oh,
from you believing that
yeah.
it is a very good product, right?
Mm.
So that is bias, okay? There is something to be gained. There is, they're leaning to one side and not discussing the other side because they have something to gain from you believing their point of view, right?
And also the politician say it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Politicians, they will say one thing because they want you to believe that they're listening to you, right? You
Yeah.
want, this is why, okay, so bias is a bit different. It's a bit different, okay? So I think they will say something to you, and that's not bias, right? That's not bias. That's just them trying to kind of just lie to you, essentially, right? But what the bias is shown is their actual actions, right? So if you look at the politicians, right, they say we will make everything cheap, we'll give people housing, we'll fix homelessness by 2025 or whatever they've said, right? They haven't done those things. They don't do those things, okay? Because that does not help them. They're selfish. They are generally selfish, right? And it doesn't help them by doing these things. So their bias is shown in their actions. Because what do they actually do? A lot of the time, they are benefiting the super, super rich because it helps them get rich, right? So that shows the bias in their actions. Okay. I'm going to give another example of bias, right? And it's not in writing, so it's a bit different. But do you know if you're ever playing dice with someone, right? And now I don't play dice personally, but you can get kind of a rigged die, sorry, right? Where it's more likely to land on one side. Okay. This is called a biased die because there is more likely to land on one side, right? Or one number, basically. So, and it's the same with an argument, it's the same with someone talking, right? if you can see that there's a reason why someone is telling me this information, right? They're trying to get me to believe something, you know. Propaganda is a very common use of this, you know, where you'll see in the news people kind of newspaper articles being targeting kind of minority groups of people, right? This is a bias. They're trying to portray an image of, you know, for example, immigrants, right? Which I think is terrible. So bias is found everywhere, guys, and identifying it is very, very important to make sure that you're learning the right piece of information and you're interpreting the information the right way. Okay. So let's look. So these are the few things where you could find bias, right? Or features of bias. Images, I don't think about that one. Repetition, euphemism, sarcasm, and the use of speech marks and the use of pronouns. We'll look into this and explain further, right? Let's look. The basis of any good education is science, science, science. Now, guys, just this sentence here, okay? Do you think this person has some bias? Oh, sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, the first sentence. Do you think they have some bias? And if so, what is the bias towards?
Okay, let's see. Let's just go to go ahead.
What are you thinking, me?
I pick.
I think number one is spice.
Yeah. Okay. Why? I mean, like, yeah.
Education, science, repeated.
Yes, the repetition, right? So I think if I heard someone say the basis of any good education is science, 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 right? I'm thinking, okay, like obviously I read that in a certain voice, right? But the reason I read that in a certain voice is because I looked at the sentence, and like Abdullah said, is the repetition, right? I think, you know, I remember my English teacher at school, right? She would tell me how important it was to read books, study English, you know, study your language, right? So I found that very important. But she was an English teacher telling me that, right? What about my maths teacher? Well, he said maths, you use maths for the rest of your life. You know, you use maths in everything. You have to be good at maths. You have to take it. So I took maths for my A-level subject because of that exact reason. So just like this person is saying, the basis of any good education is science, science, science. They believe that you can't have a good education if you don't have the good understanding of the science. So absolutely, Abdullah, the repetition. Can you think about the person who would say this though? I'm thinking it's probably a science teacher, you know, or a scientist, right? Right? That's what they believe, right? Because if they've become a scientist or they've become a science teacher, most likely they are going to believe that science is very important. So that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So the English team is sure to win the World Cup. Now, I want to just reference this one. Now, the English team has won the World Cup once in the history. Okay. So they're never really ever sure to win the World Cup. That's not true. But if someone was English and they were an English fan of the football team, I'm sure they would say, yeah, England's going to win. England's going to win. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Right? There's no doubt about it. So, kind of understanding where the person is coming from when they are saying sentences or the reading their sentences is very important. Exactly. Okay. Other ways we can detect bias when we read. Guys, just 5 more minutes on this, then I'm going to do the maths. Okay. So, exaggerated language, use of headlines, helping or hurting, omission, one-sidedness, self or third-party interest. Okay, businessman. Remember I explained this one, right? Self or third-party interest. They're trying to sell something. They're going to try and portray their product as really good, perfect. You need to have it. It's a must-have, right? They'll try and sell it. One-sidedness, right? One-sidedness is basically just like where, for example, I'll give you an example. Vegans, right? If a vegan person is only giving you one side of the argument. So, for example, they're just saying eating meat is so bad, eating meat is so bad, blah, blah, blah. They don't give you any benefits of why being vegan is good for you. Maybe the health benefits, maybe there's a more balanced diet, something like this. I don't know. Okay. But if they are kind of only talking about how one thing is so bad and they're not saying how another thing is quite bad as well, discussing a balanced argument. If they're not doing that, there's probably some bias, okay? Omission meaning just leaving things out, okay? So you could basically say something and then just leave out a very important part of that sentence. And then someone might think, oh, wow, that's really good. That's really good. For example, if I said to you guys, I was like, look, you guys can buy this house right now for £10. It's a 4-bed house. You guys are like, whoa, hold on. That's really good. That's really good. I wanna buy this house. It's £10. But then I don't let you know that, yeah, but then after like 2 weeks, you have to pay £10 million or something ridiculous, right? That's a mission, right? That's a mission. Is the bias. I'm trying to sell the house and leaving out an important detail so you get stuck with the problem, right? Do we understand bias a bit better, guys? Are we understanding this? Hello? Hello? Guys, hello? Okay. So exaggerated language, just like saying if I like dropped my ice cream on the floor and I was like, this is like the worst thing that's ever happened to me. There's probably some bias there, you know what I mean? I'm trying to make people feel bad for me, maybe. I'm exaggerating how bad the actual incident was. And then I think kind of everything else is it makes sense now. So, guys, what I'm going to suggest for today is that you go through the resources, maybe read through the PowerPoint one more time in case you need to kind of take notes or anything like that. But that is basically today's session. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.